I would love to start off the conversation. DQ1 is, who is the narrator? How does the narrative structure and tone influence your interpretation of the story? At first I thought that this is a group of people. In general, the story talks about we saw something about Miss Emily, or like a group of people saw something about Miss Emily. So I assumed that it was a group of people. And there's a quote on page 130, paragraph 2.
Each December,
and it's at the end of the story, and it says, "For a long while we just stood there," and they're standing in front of the dead body. And I mean, it's sort of like not everyone was there, not everyone in the town, but maybe a group of people. And at the beginning, when we talked about the story after we read it and heard what show it was sort of equivalent to Gossip Girl, I sort of pictured that the narrator might be like a group of women who are gossiping about this story.
I actually think that the narrator, if this makes sense, is kind of like.
Well, I do agree with you. I thought it was a group of people too because of all the
Page.
references, or when they said stuff, it said like we did this and we did that. But I also definitely think the narrator is one of the townspeople who is around the same age as Emily. I'm pretty sure, or that's just what I'm thinking. Because it says our whole town went to her funeral, which is like she died at 74. So I just think that he could probably, or he or she is either younger or around her age, and
From this changing of perspective,
it's one of the town people because
not supposed to be identified.
it says, which no one save an old man servant, a combined burner, and a cook. I've seen it in the last 10 years when they're talking about no one went inside of her house, which I'm guessing includes the narrator because he never said anything about the inside of her house. And whenever she was coming in and out of her house or would stay in be hidden there for a while, no one would see her, including the narrator.
Clearly identifies as a male.
Well, I thought it was interesting how y'all mentioned, and I definitely agree with y'all, how the narrator's kind of a group of people, but this group of people can't be everywhere at once. And I found a quote on page 128. It's on the second to last paragraph. Starts daily, monthly, yearly. You watch the black male go grayer and more stooped, going in and out of the house with the market basket. It's honestly like the townspeople, or the narrator, has nothing better to do than just watch this lady, watch their house daily, monthly, and yearly.
Her whole town went to her funeral.
Well, I think I would kind of agree and disagree. I think it is someone in the town, but I do think it's one person. And I think, like AC said, I think it's kind of someone that's closer to Miss Emily's age because they've been around for a long time. And I have a quote on page 123. It's at the bottom paragraph of the page.
Again, it doesn't.
And so first sentence of that paragraph, it says, the day after his death, all the ladies prepared to call at the house and offer condolence, as is our custom. So I think it's kind of showing the narrator has been around for a while, they know the way of the town, and I don't think it's a group of people, but more so just someone who is very in with the town and knows the town and just speaks in the we
I
form.
think that the narrator is kind of pointing to kind of from the town.
A lot of different people, with a lot of different point of view.
It says similarly, the narrator avoids signaling the particular generation of comprehending both the town's siblings.
more than one
Let's see how
person.
Tyler said how it's kind of as our custom, meaning they kind of been there for a while, and that's really you can tell that they.
Poison, and nobody was there at that time except for her and the person who was selling to her. So I thought that it was the ghost of Homer Barron, because I thought he was the only one who'd be able to figure out how he died, how he died in that situation.
Well, as much as James's theory is very interesting, I don't
particularly agree with it. Like many of you guys, I think it was a group of people who are working together to create this whole entire story of like basically gossip. And I have a quote on the page, or the first page of the book. It's in paragraph 1.
But it could also be that things were passed down.
And it says, the men through a sort of respectful affection for a fallen monument, the woman mostly out of curiosity to see inside of her house, which no one save an old man servant, a combined gardener, and a cook had seen in at least 10 years. So I think it's a group of people because they're kind of like reporting on what everyone else is thinking and seeing. And so it's kind of like, they're kind of like reporters, and they're gossiping to make this whole story up. Not make it up, but like tell the story. Yeah.
Different perspectives, so many different types of details. He kind of interviewed Miss Emily's servant, and that's where the we and our gets, because he can't like specify where this all comes from, just from one perspective, and instead he had interviewed a lot of different people to get the whole story.
Yeah, I agree with Ashley. I don't think the narrative can be assigned to any specific person or group of people. I think it should really be, I think it really represents kind of the spirit or collective being of the town, which as discussed in Klein's analysis on the second page, paragraph 2, kind of the middle of it. It's reminiscent of, again, the gossipy first person style of society.
I felt better because it was like
I kind of, when reading this, I kind of thought of the narrator as a little bit like of an older, wise person that kind of understands how the town works. And there's like, in the real world today, there's some people that kind of like grew up like in the midst of all this like gossip and stuff that's going on. So I feel like this could be like an older, wiser person that kind of knows pretty much everyone in the town is really connected. I found a quote in the text on page 1 and 2, kind of last paragraph of the first page, second of it. So it starts with, alive Miss Emily had been a tradition, a duty, and a care, and sort of hereditary obligation upon the town. That kind of says that she would have been like part of the time. That kind of implies that the narrator knew her back then or has access to historical opinions of people back then. And then on the next page, top of the paragraph, it says, not that Miss Emily would have accepted charity. Like, only someone who knew her could know that she doesn't like charity and doesn't like that kind of thing.
That doesn't anyone? Okay. Well, I'm going in. Okay. So, the question was, what rhetorical techniques, emphasis strategies, or figurative language does Faulkner use to establish voice? And I found that on page 130 of the story, in the well, it's right after the first paragraph. It says the man himself lay in the bed, and Faulkner used line break because it's just that one sentence and it's a paragraph. And I think he used line break just to like put emphasis on that and like add drama to the story and just like make it more interesting and just more dramatic.
Among the
So on page 125, down at the bottom of the page.
And then there's another quote at the next page that talks about social dangers, force and force.
Start at, I want some poison, she said. Yes, Miss Emily, what kind? For rats and such? I want the best you have. I don't care what kind. The druggist named several. They'll kill anything up to an elephant. But what you want is arsenic, Miss Emily said. Is that a good one? Is arsenic? Yes, ma'am. But what you want, I want arsenic. So I think the line breaks here really
establish Emily's voice as commanding and certain, and she really knows what she wants. And the druggist's voice is kind of established as nervous or concerned about what she'll do with it.
One of the most insightful and the most memorable systematic.
I also agree with you, Zach. I use the same quote, I want icing it. Because like when Faulkner does have Emily speak, she usually
The third paragraph on page 125, it starts with "she carried." Goes, she carried her head high enough, even when we believed that she was fallen. It was as if she demanded more than ever the recognition of her dignity as the last Grierson, as if it had wanted that touch of earthiness to reaffirm her imperviousness. Like when she bought the rat poison, the arsenic, and it kind of shows that Emily had like a strong character. It might be like a shadow of how she used to be before she locked herself in solitude.
Voice to the story, like all throughout the story,